Rosemary. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm so glad to have this is what I consider a sanctuary full of people. This is really nice. We have, there's 8 of us together. This is really, really nice. And we have at least as many online right now, and that'll increase, hopefully increase inside the sanctuary. Welcome. Oops. I always forget to turn the right cam on. There I am. We are praying out of Sidor Lev Shalem, and we will begin tonight's service, page 11, with Kabbalat Shabbat, Psalm 95. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladunai, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladunai. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, nekad mafana betoda. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladunai, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladunai. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, nekad mafana betoda. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Please join me in the English. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands formed the earth's deep. Mount and crest too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Merivah, like that time at Massah, in the desert when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are a people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way, so in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. Arba'im shanakut bedor, va'omaram toeh levavim ve'im lo yadid rachai, asher nishpati v'api, im yavon el menuchati. Page 13, Psalm 96. Ashiru ladonai, shir chadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz, shiru ladonai, baruch shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru vagoyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nifliotav, ki gadol Adonai, o mehulal miyod. No rahu Auko Elohim, lai lai lai, Kiko Elohe ha'amim elilim, V'Adonai shamayim asa, Had v'hadar lefanav, Oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho, Avu l'Adonai mishpachot amim, Avu l'Adonai kavod v'oz, Avu l'Adonai kevod shemo, Seu mincha, Uvahu l'chatzerot, Av lai lai la, Shtachavu l'Adonai, Behadrat Kodesh, Chilu mipanav kol haaretz, Imru v'goyim, Adonai malach, Aftikum tevel balatimot, Yadina amim b'mei sharim, Yismechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz, Ayiram mayamu melo, Yalo sadai, V'chol asher bo lai lai lai, Az yiranenu kol hatziyar, Lifnei Adonai kiva, Kiva lishpot haaretz, Yishpot tevel b'tzedek, V'yamim b'emunato, Yalai la lai 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 la la lai lai, Ya lai lai lai, ya lai la lai la lai, ya lai lai lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai lai lai. Page 15, Psalm 97. Adonai reigns, let the earth be glad, the many distant lands rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine. Righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about. Flashes of lightning illumine the land. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the Master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Worshippers of idols, be shamed for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme bow before God. Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exult as you, Adonai, pass judgment. You, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. Light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. Or zarula tzadik u'Yisrael simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hoduhu lezecher kadesho. Page 17, Psalm 98. Mizmor shiru ladonai, shir chadash, Ki niflaot asa, Hoshia lo yimino, Uzaroako, Ochoadia, Adonai Yeshuato, Leena goyim gilatzit kato, Zachar chasta ve'emunato, Leveit Yisrael, Ra'u cholav se'aretz, Et Yeshuat Eloheinu, Horiu l'Adonai kol haaretz, Pitzchu v'zamru l'Adon, Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor, B'chinor v'kol zimara, B'chatzot rod v'kol shofar, Horiu lifnei HaMelech Adonai, Yamayam u'maloho, Tevel v'yoshveva, Neharot yimcha uchaf, Yachad abrim yiranenu, Lifnei Adonai kiva, Lishpot haaretz, Yishpot tevel b'tzedek, V'yamim b'meisharim, Yalai lalai 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 lalai, Yalai lalai lalai, Yalai lalai lalai lalai, Yalai 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 lalai lalai, page 19, Psalm 99. Adonai reigns, nations tremble, the one enthroned amidst the cherubim makes the world quake. Adonai is great in Zion above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, all-inspiring Holy One. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forged the paths of truth, judging Jacobly, righteously, and justly. Exalt Adonai, our God. Bow down before God, the Holy One. Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel among those who called upon the divine name, called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. You answered them, Adonai, our God, and you were a forgiving God to them, even as you punished them for their transgressions. Exalt Adonai, our God, and bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai, our God, is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kadosho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, page 21, Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu ladonai b'nei Elim, havu ladonai kavod vos, havu ladonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu ladonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el kavod hirim Adonai al mayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et alzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Levanon v'siryon kemo ven reimim, Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, vayechesot nyarot, uvehechalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamabul yashav, yeshev Adonai melech lialam, Adonai oz liamu yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. You may be seated. We continue with Lechadudi, page 23. Lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu elam yuchad, Adonai echad, Ushamo echad l'shemo tiferet, Veliti la lecha, Dodi lekrat, Kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor habiracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sov maaseh b'machshvat chila lecha, Dodi lekrat, Kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Mikdash melech ir melucha, Kumitzi mitocha hafecha ravlach, Shevet b'yemek habacha, V'hu yachamo alaychem lalecha, Dodi lekrat, Kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Hitnari me'afar kumi, Livshei vigdei tifartechami, Hayad ben Yishai, Beit alachmi, Karva el nafshi geyala lecha, Dodi lekrat, Kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Hitoreri, Kiva ore kumi ori, shir daberi, Kivod Adonai alayich nigla, Lechadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Lechadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, lo tevoshi ולא תקמי מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי בך יחסו אני ימי ונבנתה עיר אל תילה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלם דהיו למשיסה שעשייך ורחקו כל מהבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כי עמך חתנה על כלה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי היד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. We rise and we face towards the west, towards the entrance to greet the Shabbat bride. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. You may be seated. Continue page 27 with Psalm 92. A psalm, the song of the day of Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age, they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Tzadik tamar yifrach ki erez balvanon yiske shetulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim ve'ananim yiyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabo. Page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you are enthroned, you are eternal. The rivers rise up, Adonai, the rivers raise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves. Above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the ocean, Adonai stands supreme in the heavens. In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. So again, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Thank you for joining us, our community, for the celebration of Shabbat. We so miss being together, and we don't know if we're in this pandemic still or out. We have no clue. and everybody's hesitant, I know. But thank God we have the resources to do this both in person and online. And we are soon going to be getting new cameras, both here in this sanctuary and the small sanctuary. So I don't know when that's going to happen, soon, maybe not so soon. But anyway, at some point, we'll be able to go back and forth between the sanctuaries with just well, I'll turn one laptop on and not the other. So that's where we'll be. So, and the new cameras should be, we'll get rid of this chazarai in front of you, and everything will be back and seamless, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better experience, though I don't know that this is such a bad experience. We've spent a long time trying to figure all of this out. I was a software engineer in my previous life, and I never thought I would go back to any of that, but here I am. So the last 4 or 5 weeks have been, that won't continue, hopefully. I have been fairly miserable with this cough, and got worse when I was in Charlotte last week for the Association of Holocaust Organizations annual conference, first they've done in 3 years, and it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have to say it's hotter here, I can't believe that I'm saying that, than in Charlotte. And Charlotte is pretty darn hot and humid. But I had a wonderful time meeting with all kinds of really interesting people all over the country and world, actually. And but on the day before I came back on Tuesday, I came back on Wednesday. On Tuesday, I got sick again, and I finally, I had the worst flight. I have to tell you, I've taken a lot of bad flights, but this was absolutely the worst. You will hear about it on Rosh Hashanah, because I talked with Rabbi Silberman in Mobile today, who is also not feeling well, and he told me, I told him the story. He said, "Oh, you have a Rosh Hashanah drash out of that." I said, "Yeah, I think I do." So you'll hear about that later. It's pretty outrageous and unbelievable, but there it is. So this is the first time I have gone. Well, it's 21 minutes in. I've only coughed once, and my voice feels a lot stronger than it's been. I'm on antibiotics and some type of cough drop that they call Pearl of something. I'm not sure. You probably know about this. Apparently, my daughter knew all about it. Coats your lungs with something and keeps you from coughing. So we'll see. But my voice feels strong, and I'm really glad to be here. I haven't been able to do a Devar in a while, so I ain't going to make up for it tonight by making this long. But, you know, who knows? Maybe it will. In this week's Torah portion, we begin with an account of Aaron preparing the menorah. There's a depiction of the menorah, the candelabrum in the temple, that are to burn from evening till dawn in the desert sanctuary, and then relit the next evening. The Levites are then brought forward to be purified, and an interesting ritual takes place. The children of Israel are to place their hands on the Levites. You might think that would be the other way around, that the Kohanim would be placing their hands on the Israelites, but no. The Israelites are placing their hands on the Levites as Aaron waves the Levites as a wave offering to God from the children of Israel. The people are, in a sense, sacrificing the Levites so as to allow them to perform their service to God in the desert sanctuary. After the installation of the Levites, God tells Moses that the tenure of the Levite is from the age of 25 to 50. I'm just going to read the translation of the text from Numbers 10. Now, let's see if I can find it. There it is. Sorry. Numbers 8:23. It says, "The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, 'This is the rule for the Levites from 25 years of age up they shall participate in the workforce in the service of the tent of meeting. But at the age of 50, they shall retire from the workforce and shall serve no more.'" Our government should read that. We could all retire at 50. "They may assist their brother Levites at the tent of meeting by standing guard, but they shall perform no labor. Thus you shall deal with the Levites in regard to their duties." I just didn't want you to think I was making that up. The Levites served from the age of 25 to the age of 50. And we'll talk about that. After the age of 50, he shall withdraw from the legion of work and no longer work. He shall minister with his brethren. Rashi, our classical commentator from 11th century France, makes the comment that 50-year-old Levite stops carrying the temple objects but continues to lock the gates. Rav, however, uses Pirkei Avot, and this is what I wanted to, it's such a great quote from the Ethics of Our Forefathers. It's actually in our Siddur. You can actually turn to page 57 and read it for yourself, but I'm going to read it for those online and those that don't want to turn to the page. It says, and this is right at the end of the 5th chapter of Pirkei Avot. "This was another favorite teaching of his. At the age of 5, the study of Bible. At 10, the study of Mishnah. At 13, responsibility for the mitzvot. At 15, the study of Talmud. At 18, marriage." Hear that, Luke? No, you don't have to do that. At 20, pursuit of a livelihood. At 30, the peak of one's powers. At 40, the age of understanding. And at 50, the age of counsel. And I'm not going to read the rest of it because it gets pretty negative after that. But at 50, the age of counseling. He shall minister. Okay. How can Rav be reconciled to Rashi? Rashi says that he shall stand guard, okay, or lock the gates. Rav said that he shall offer counseling. The Chidushei Harim, another commentary, answers this question with a story. Of course, rabbis aren't going to answer it directly. They're going to tell you a story. A man got lost in a forest and spent years wandering through it, unable to find his way out. Suddenly, in the distance, he saw an old man headed toward him. Overjoyed, he ran over to him. "Tell me, how does one get out of this forest?" he inquired. The old man replied sadly, "I too am lost. For 70 years I've been hopelessly wandering here, unable to find my way out. One thing I can tell you, however, don't follow the path I took, for it leads nowhere. As for the proper path, you will have to find it yourself." The 50-year-old man can stand guard and close the doors which lead to the road of futility. He can offer advice on how to avoid life's potential pitfalls. So this story, of course, really hits close to home for me because at the age of 51, 1 year later, I was ordained in rabbinical school, okay? Which meant I went into rabbinical school at the age of 45, spent 5 years, sorry. And that means I had a career before then, okay? I was carrying the temple objects, so to speak. But at the age of 45, I stopped and learned how to serve people and give counsel. But that sounds very sedentary and predictable. Where is there something to look forward to in life? Yes, of course, at the age of 50, you have children, they get married, have grandchildren, all this is fine and well. But where are there challenges left for each of us at the age of 50? And you have to really think today's 50 is 60, right, or 65. If you look in this week's Torah portion and read the very next section after the Levites' inauguration is described, the very peculiar institution, and David, you asked me about this on Thursday, about the Pesach Sheni. The second Passover is described. Second Passover? Isn't one enough? For those of the Israelites that were somehow in an impure state and unable to partake in the Passover sacrifice on the first Passover, on the 15th of the month of Nisan, they have an opportunity to make up for it and have a second chance on Pesach Sheni on the 15th of the month of Iyar, the month later. This is, I believe, the only instance in Torah where one has a second opportunity to fulfill a mitzvah that one missed the first time around. I think this is the link I needed to expand the role of a 50-year-old in Israelite society. I am reminded of another story, as told by Michael Katz and Gershon Schwartz in Swimming in the Sea of Talmud, of someone else who took advantage of a second chance. A story. Many years ago, there was a man who worked very hard at his job. His responsibilities demanded a lot from him: patience, thoughtful planning, constantly being alert for signs of trouble. At times, he had to fight to protect those in his charge. All in all, he did quite well in his work. In his occupation, he often found himself alone with his thoughts. During long stretches of boredom, more and more he began to sense emptiness within himself. There were other things he longed to do, opportunities he had dreamed of, but after so many years of doing one thing, he despaired of ever being able to open the door to these new worlds. I just don't know enough. Then two things happened to change the course of his life. First, he met someone special who said to him, I see your incredible potential. You have the capability of going out in new directions and excelling. Believe in yourself as much as I believe in you, and I'll be there to help you. He was heartened by these words, but still had his doubts. Maybe if I were younger, it's too late now. I can't start all over again, not at my age, not at this point in my life. There is too much I don't know, too much I don't understand. It was then that the second event occurred, another incident that would shape his life. It was not a blinding revelation from heaven that told him what to do. It was not a close call with death that made him reevaluate who he was and where he was going. It was a very ordinary, mundane experience. He chanced upon a rock that had a deep impression cut into it. He looked closely and saw that what had carved into the solid stone was nothing more than drops of water continuously falling on the same spot day after day, year after year, he suddenly realized, if this can happen in nature, then it can happen to me as well. I'm going to begin to learn a little each day until I feel comfortable with what I know. With encouragement from a friend and the strength that was within, he decided to take the first step. He felt awkward and out of place, even a bit like a child. Some laughed at him. At first, some people took him seriously. It's just a phase he's going through, they said. After a while, though people stopped laughing, they saw his persistence and felt his sincerity. Then they too began to see the incredible potential that had been lying dormant within him for all those years. As time passed, the man created a new life for himself, opening many of these locked doors that he had dreamed about. He came to touch the lives of countless others, not only with what he had to say, but also with how he had turned his life around. So I'll ask a question. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? It's not me, but it is me. But this is a famous story about somebody else that you may or may not have heard of. Maybe you have. So this story is the story of Rabbi Akiva ben Joseph. And this incident occurred 2,000 years ago. Rabbi Akiva is a major Jewish personality that is one of the principal players in keeping Judaism alive to this very day. He started learning when he was 40 years old. He actually put himself into a class of children who were learning the Aleph Bet. And he learned the Aleph Bet with these young children at the age of 40. And then he went to another class and another class. Some things just don't change. History repeats and repeats, and sometimes for a good purpose. No human emotion or struggle is new or unique. The only thing that changes are the people involved in the story. So I feel akin to Rabbi Akiva. I didn't start studying at 40, but I did start studying in rabbinical school at 45. I had no clue what Mishnah was or Talmud. I knew the words, I kind of knew the stories, I kind of understood very little, and I understood very little. On my interview weekend, they put me in a Talmud class. I didn't know which way the book was up. And I felt inadequate with all of these very young people in the class, reading, interpreting, answering questions. I felt at the age of 45, there is no way I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to do this. So I had my interview. And by the way, that same weekend that I interviewed, there was a young woman who had lots of Judaic learning from a day school that she went to or whatever. She was in the same Talmud class that I was in, and she was raising her hands, asking questions, answering questions, and I'm sitting there, I don't even know which side the book is up. Well, I'll give you the short answer to the story. She did not get accepted, and I did. And it taught me something about humility. They weren't looking for Talmud scholars. They were looking for people that would be good in a service role as a pulpit rabbi and a pastor. And I had a terrible interview, I will tell you that. I don't interview well at anything. And I asked the dean, Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson, a few years later, I said, I had a pretty bad interview. And he said to me, stared right in my face, And he said, oh yeah, that was the worst. I said, just knocked me on the floor. And he said the following. He said, he listened to me. And it was obviously, I didn't know anything about Talmud. It was just obvious. They were asking me questions I had no clue. And didn't even answer the easy questions very well. He said to me, if his mother was dying and he was in the room, I've told this story before, so I'm okay talking about this. He said if his mother was dying and he could only have one other person in the room, he said of all his rabbinical students, he would have me in that room. And it was like, okay. So second opportunities in life don't necessarily have to take you in an intellectual journey through life. It has to be, this was after 9/11 that I went to school in 2002. So for me, it was in my heart to do this, and I've been here since 2007, and I've enjoyed almost every minute of it. I've really enjoyed this congregation. I've enjoyed being here to minister to all of my congregants, to offer counseling. And this story of Rabbi Akiva spoke to me in so many ways. And it can't just happen to me, it can happen to all of us. As we start living longer and longer, people are going to start having second and maybe third careers, okay? In 2001, after 9/11, I knew I had to find a different job. I knew I was going to have to go back to school to learn something. And I hadn't been in school since 1980, so I didn't think I was going to do very well in whatever I chose, so I decided to follow my heart. Irene wasn't happy about that. She was not happy. But she read a book that has come to be very meaningful to both of us. If you haven't read Tuesdays with Maury, I highly recommend you read the book. Get it right after Shabbat and read it. If you want to find meaning in life, okay, for someone you don't have to be the best at everything. In fact, that was Maury's kind of thing, you know. Yeah, he always cheered for the person who came in second place, not the one who came in first place. Okay, we're a society whereas you win at all costs. If you come in second, you're a loser. Okay, Maury didn't think that. And when Irene read that book after my interview, she said, "Now I understand why we're doing this." So, all of us, this is really an inspiration, I think, for me to impart to all of you, either online or in person, okay? If you think you haven't done anything in life and it's too late, I'm standing here to tell you it's never too late, okay? I was 50 when I was ordained, and I wasn't the oldest, okay? There was somebody who was 10 years older than me that I spent a year in Israel with. There was two others in their, one, actually Ronnie might not have been the oldest either. I think there was somebody that was 65 and somebody in their late 40s, and then Ronnie was 60. So I was the fourth oldest. And all of us had different skills. We all have different abilities, okay? Sometimes you need to reach deep inside and find out what those abilities are so you can share them with others. And that's why this story of Rabbi Akiva spoke really to me in this portion. So, second Passover, second chance in life. Grab it while you're able. Shabbat Shalom. Oops, talked too long. David, you were supposed to tell me to stop. But I don't listen to you, so it's okay. I have a story about that, but I'll save that for another time. We will rise. Okay, turn to page 39A. We will rise. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit faster. We rise for the beginning of Ma'ariv, the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam v'ho'ed. Please be seated. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher b'dvor ma'ariv. Umahavir yom umevi laila mavdio ben yom uvein laila Adonai tzavot shemo el chai v'kayim tamid yimloch aleinu lam v'o'ed baruch et Adonai Amariv Aravim, page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם מנהגה יומם ולילה ויבטח תשים ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך ויעים שמות תשמעו. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם ונתנו על ציצית תקנה פתיל תכלת והיה לכם לציצית הוריתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטו אחרי לבבכם ואחריכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. page 43a ואמונס כזאת הקיים עלינו. page 44 ומלכותו ברצון קיבליהם משה ובני ישראל חנשירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדור בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך ראובנך בו קיים לפני משה זה לי ענו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגולת מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל page 45 השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום. Ushmotzeitenu vein lachem ushlam yatavi elam uvrosalin iskat shlemecha Baruch Adonai haboretz ukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. We rise for Vishamru, page 46. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam barit olam. We turn to page 47 and we recite to ourselves. This is our chance to have a private conversation with God, with Hashem, pages 47 through 52. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol shalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol shalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'to be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים le'olam. We remain standing as the ark is open, page 56 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gdula liotzer bereshit shalo asanu kugoye haratzot v'lo samanu kamishmachot hadama shalo sam chelkenu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Natei Shamayim v'Yosed Haaretz, Yoshev Yikara b'Shamayim imahal, U'shchinatu zo, Begavei meromim, Hu Eloheinu ein od, Emet Malkeinu efezulato, Kakatu b'torato, v'yadat hayom v'hashivota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim mimal, v'yal haaretz mi tachat ein od al kein, dikavalecha Adonai Eloheinu li'od mehev b'divei cheduzecha. Kakadu b'toratech Adonai imloch le'olam v'oed v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom ahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo Echad. You may be seated. This week we will observe yard sites for Jean Kapuya, Sylvan Kramer, Berta Mitnick, Solomon Rousseau, Ruth Bruchus, Sari Chernow, Dor Eagle, Leo Finkelstein, Denise K. Hannon, Hirsch Siegel, Sam Kulik, Arlene Miller, Sam Tannenbaum, Sophia Siegel Cowden, and Herman Kleinberg. Les, your name of daughter-in-law? Miriam Devorah Bott. What's her English name? Donna Rudnick. So we were very sad for the Rudnick family. We buried their close one this week. And we invite them and all who are mourning to please rise and join together in the Mourner's Kaddish, page 58. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, b'yomah divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayichon v'yamechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimaru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mel maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha barichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran b'yoma v'imaru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. Oseh shalom v'imramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. And may her name always be for a blessing. I hope you were able to get some comfort out of these services and for the entire time that you have to say Mourner's Kaddish. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry I went a little bit long. Sometimes when I start, I've heard a rabbi say he was invited to participate in a program anniversary of a synagogue, and they gave him 5 minutes. He said, a rabbi can't even clear his throat in 5 minutes. I happen to not be like that. I don't give long sermons, but I do get passionate about some things in my life, and I'm passionate about this choice. Shabbat Shalom, welcome to everyone, both online and in person. We will continue Shabbat services tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. And also, we have a special opportunity tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Miriam and Toria, also known as Dahlia Road, they are in the recording studio, and so they're going to be in Montgomery, and so they are going to join me live for Havdalah tomorrow at 8 p.m. Any of you within driving distance are welcome to join us in the sanctuary for Havdalah. There's nothing like hearing Miriam and Toria sing live. They are unbelievable. So if you have the opportunity to join us, otherwise it's via Zoom, and you can send me an email for the link at ravmalki@gmail.com. That's ravmalki@gmail.com. And I'll get you the link before we start tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. I was thinking I had something else to say, but you know what? It's 6:59. I'm going to cut myself off. This is last call. We'll finish our service, page 111, with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu echad v'yein sheni lam shelo lehachbira b'li reishit b'li tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra v'hu eli v'chai go'ali v'tzor chevli b'yetzara v'hu nisi u'manosli menat kosi b'yom mekra menat kosi b'yom mekra b'yado afkid ruchi b'yet ishan v'yaira v'im ruchi kaviyati Adonai li v'lo ira Adonai li v'lo ira.